Vehicle crossing permit standard conditions. Council may grant a vehicle crossings permit to construct, reconstruct, remove and or modify a vehicle crossing and or adjacent footpath subject to the following standard conditions. Council standard drawings and any other special site-specific conditions. 1. Only one single width vehicle crossing is allowed for a single residential dwelling per street frontage. 2 vehicle crossings must be located to ensure maximum retention of existing on-street parking supply, taking into account the length of spaces on each side of the proposed vehicle crossing and the location of the adjacent vehicle crossing. 3. The loss of on-street parking as a result of a modification made to an existing vehicle crossing requested is not supported. For a vehicle crossing permit would only be issued where the parking space on the property has a minimum depth of 5.5 meters. 5. The minimum width of a single width vehicle crossing for a residential dwelling is 3 meters. 6. The maximum width of a single width vehicle crossing is 3.6 meters for a residential dwelling unless otherwise specified in the associated town planning permit. 7. The width of a combined vehicle crossing that serves more than one property shall be 6.5 meters maximum unless otherwise specified in the town planning permit. 8. The width and location of a vehicle crossing servicing commercial developments will be subject to a site-specific assessment by the council, considering design standards of the Glen Eira planning scheme. 9. The location and width of vehicle crossing should maximize the retention of on-street parking spaces. 10. The footpath that is adjacent to the vehicle crossing must be reconstructed to the same depth as that of a vehicle crossing to council standards. 11. Where the property is within a heritage overlay and or on an arterial road, a town planning permit must be obtained prior to a vehicle crossing permit being granted. 12. The benefiting property owner is responsible for works and costs associated with constructing a vehicle crossing and adjacent footpath. 13. A vehicle crossing that becomes redundant because of a change to a property it serves must be removed and any footpath, nature strip, curb and channel must be reconstructed to council requirements at the cost of the owner permit holder. Redundant vehicle crossings must be removed at the same time as the construction of new vehicle crossings, prior to the completion of development works and where access to property has been altered. 14. If a vehicle crossing construction or removal works are not carried out in accordance with the council permit, the council may undertake the work at the owner's cost. 15. The section of the channel that coincides with the vehicle crossing is deemed to be part of the vehicle crossing. 16. No vehicle crossing is allowed within 10 meters of an intersection with the nearest road. 17. Vehicle crossings are not permitted within 3 meters of the closest edge of a street tree, run or at the direction of council's arborist, where replacement or removal of trees is allowed. All costs for investigations and works must be borne by the vehicle crossing permit applicant. 18. Vehicle crossings must be no closer than 1 meter from any utility infrastructure, unless the applicant provides approval from the relevant authority. 19. Any modification and or relocation required to any private or utility assets over or under the vehicle crossing shall be at the cost of permit holder owner and must be carried out to the asset owner's and council's satisfaction. 20. Vehicle crossings must be at least 1 meter from council drainage pits and street furniture or at the discretion of council. Any modification and or relocation required to council assets will be at the applicant's cost and must be carried out to council's requirements. 21. Modified vehicle crossings to council standards may be permitted in local access streets at the owner's cost to avoid car scrapping. Steel plates or similar on the curb and channel are not allowed. 22. Where feasible, vehicle crossings are to be constructed 600 mm from the property side boundary to provide opportunities for landscaping between the vehicle crossing and the boundary fence. This will also enable the retention of a minimum of 1.2 meter grass nature strip aisle between any new vehicle crossing and any existing vehicle crossing to an abutting property. providing a pedestrian and refuge between the two vehicle crossings. 23. The person responsible for construction or removal of the vehicle crossing and or associated works is responsible to put in place measures to ensure the safety of pedestrians, workers and motorists prior to and during the works.